What's the odds that you just wanted to yawn as well? You know, there's a really funny thing about brains. On the sides of each side of your head, you've got things called mirror neurons. And those mirror neurons are designed for tribal interaction, so that when you see somebody do something or feel something, you're then also assessing your own capacity to do that. So if you've ever seen a yawn make its way around a room, or if somebody says, I gotta pee, and then you go, oh, I gotta pee. There's a lot of different things that'll happen where if you experience something, or if you see someone experience something, you'll then feel that thing too. Imagine talking to the most negative person you know. Let's say you've got a relative or let's say a parent-in-law or something like that, where when you speak to them for 2 hours, how do you feel? Well, you'll probably feel pretty deflated. Or if you're speaking to someone who's really energized and motivated, if you spend an hour or two around them, you're generally picked up and excited as well. Well, that concept actually directly applies to running teams and having them hit targets or goals. And the idea that we're going to talk about is called the thermostat versus the thermometer. So the thermostat versus thermometer idea is very, very simple. What does a thermometer do? Well, a thermometer tells you the temperature of a room. Now, what does a thermostat do? Well, a thermostat is the thing responsible for setting the temperature of the room. And the dynamic is very simple. If every single person in a team or a group is held accountable to being a thermostat and they're all focused on setting the energy, you're going to have a really good culture and attitude and vibe in the room. But anybody who's just a thermometer, well, if they're baseline or below and they're not taking accountability for their energy and attitude, well, they're actually bringing down the whole team's energy. And so it's really, really important. The first thing to understand about being a thermostat and not a thermometer is that you have to be the lighthouse for this. You've got to be the guide and make sure at all times when you're around your team, you're doing that. And I understand it's like, oh, but what if that's not authentic? Nobody needs you to be authentic all the time. Sometimes they need you to be the best version of yourself, even if you don't feel like being that best version of yourself. Imagine seeing a performer, like a famous musician, being the authentic version of themselves. They're having a crappy day and they've got to perform and they come on the stage and they're only just half-assing their performance. Well, you don't want authentic all the time as a leader. You want the best version of yourself. And sometimes you have to demand that of yourself. So being that thermostat is really, really important. The other side of that, though, is making sure that your team is doing that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a later video, but understanding that every single person who isn't being a thermostat, well, they're being a thermometer. It's one or the other. You can't be in the middle. And so really getting your head around how important that is, most importantly for you, but also to demand that of your team, that really makes the dynamic work. But let's look into specifically how you can be a thermostat and not a thermometer. So the first thing that you can do to be a thermostat and not a thermometer is actually quite simple. It's your posture. Just remembering to stand up tall, put your shoulders back, just stand like someone who's high status and someone who's having a good day. That immediately hits your teammates' mirror neurons and makes them feel more engaged and energized as well. Because if I come up to the team and go, all right, is everyone excited for a good day? It's not going to resonate anywhere nearly as much as, hey guys, we're excited for a good day? So that posture is really powerful. The other thing that you can do, and I know it sounds funny, but you just make sure your face is doing the right thing. Some people have what's called resting bitch face, where they just sort of have that neutral expression all the time. Don't do that. That is not being a good thermostat. So if you're someone who suffers from resting bitch face, when you're with your team, it's very, very simple. Smile. Just remember to smile when you're around the people you're trying to energize. And that will make your eyes do what they're supposed to do. A lot of time that'll make your posture do the right thing. Really, really powerful skill is to smile when you're around your team if you want them to feel better. Another really important part of being a thermostat and not a thermometer is your engagement. So if somebody's speaking, making sure you're paying attention to them, making sure that you're responding, making sure that you're, commenting on things and engaging yourself in that discussion. Engagement is really powerful because if you're just isolated or standoffish or not involved, that's going to detract from the energy. Being part of a high standards, high performing team is not about being the cool guy or the cool girl and just not really showing that you care. Indifference has no place in championship teams. Every single person in that team has to care and has to look like they care, and engagement's a big part of that. The other side of engagement is you've got to eliminate distractions. This is a really, really common one, especially in our modern, technology heavy generation, is that a lot of people will stay on their phones or will be, distracted on the computer or something like that. Those distractions take away from the unity and the energy that you're trying to create. So making sure that you and no one else on your team is just playing around on their phone at a time when you need to be getting the energy up. That may be in the morning meeting. That may be when you get out to, let's say you're doing kiosk sales, that you're out on the booth. That may be in the car on the way out to turf if you're doing door to door, or it might be in the meeting room if you're in a bullpen. So those areas where you need to generate energy, the worst thing that you can do is just be scrolling on Instagram looking at cats. So really making sure you're not distracted and not allowing distractions and everyone is engaged. The last thing that's really going to make a difference when it comes to being a thermostat and not a thermometer is, it's a really unique one. It's how you greet people. Especially if you're the leader of a team. If somebody walks into the room or walks onto the field or walks into the locker room, the first thing you want to do is just make a beeline towards them. Hey man, how you doing? How's the day been? You feeling good? Just that initial first, 5 seconds of seeing someone, it can set the tone of their day really powerfully, especially if you're trying to create a good sense of atmosphere or a good sense of momentum within the team. Just those greetings can be powerful. So that's one that you obviously need to police. Try not to be busy yourself when people are coming in. And also, if you have a team full of other leaders or just senior people in the group, remind them all the time. Just literally just walk over and go, hey man, can you go make them feel good? Go hype them up a little bit and watch them beeline and do the same thing. So just a simple, hey, and again, smile, good posture, all of the stuff that we mentioned before. Those little 1%ers, they all make a huge difference when it comes to creating the right kind of energy. One thing that I've always said with my sales teams is I can tell how many sales that team's going to make before they even go out on field, before they even start selling. Just in the meeting, I can feel the energy in the room and know if they're going to have a good day or a bad day. And that comes from every single person, the leader included, taking their accountability for being that thermostat and not allowing anybody to be that thermometer.